I will be teaching you how to complete the square from chapter 3.3 in Pre-Calc 11. It's basically turning a quadratic equation into this. So let's pick out an equation. So this is our original equation. What you want to do is factor out the whatever's beside x squared. For this one, there's nothing. But whatever you do to this, you have to do to this because you need to factor it out. So, because there's nothing beside it, you just leave it as is. You don't do anything to c, no matter what, even if there is something beside x squared. Now, what you do is you take b and you divide it by 2, and whatever that answer is, you square it. So I put a little x there. So you leave the 12x, or just in case b, and you put whatever the answer is to this, you put it beside here. But you always have to keep the positive inside, but the negative outside. I'll show you what I mean. So divided by 2 is 6, and 6 times 6 is 36. So plus 36. And then you put the negative outside here. Plus 9. Now for this part, you just factor it. You factor it like how you normally would. This one, because it will always be a perfect square, you just deal with it however it is. Meaning this would just be 6 squared. And then you deal with these two numbers, which is minus 36 plus 9 would be minus 27. Boom, right there. You have completed the square. I'll show you another example. One with something actually beside the x squared. So you know how I told you you're going to factor it out? Well, you're going to do the same here. Remember, don't touch c. c is by itself, always. Just leave that. See what I mean? So you factor out the 4 because x squared needs to be isolated. But you need to do the same thing to b. So negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2x. Now, the same thing as last time. You take this number, divide it by 2, and whatever that is, you square it. Now, negative 2 divided by 2 is 1, negative 1. And you square negative 1, it's just 1. Squared minus negative 2x. Don't forget, you leave it, and it's going to be 1. You put the negative 1 outside. But if you factored something out from the x squared to begin with, you take this number and you multiply it by this one. Just multiply it. So really, it's going to be negative 1 times 4 plus 2. And then you write the rest of it out because it's always good to keep track of your steps. It's going to end up being negative 4 plus 2. And then you do the same thing you did last time. 4x squared, 2x plus 1, and you do some simple maths. 2, and then you just factor this number out. X minus 1 squared minus 2. And that is your answer. Woohoo! Let's do one last example, and this time there's a negative 3 beside the x squared. So same thing as last time. You take these two first numbers and you just factor out whatever's beside the x squared. In this case, it's negative 3 x squared. Now, negative 12 divided by negative 3, which is positive 4x plus 5. Then you do the same thing as last time, which is divided by 2, and whatever that number is, you square it. X squared plus 4x, and 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So, plus 4, and you put the negative 1, because there's always going to be a negative. You put the negative outside, and you take this number, and you times it by this one. So it's going to turn out negative 3 plus 5. Now, keep things neat and tidy so you never get lost. It's gonna be 12 plus 5. And then you factor these numbers, and since this is always a perfect square, it's very easy to factor. X plus 2 squared plus 17. And this is going to be your answer. And that's all you need to know when you need to complete the square. Woo!